In this video, I'm going to walk you through a full passage 1 for the IELTS reading test, and I'm going to show you how to answer every single question. Let's get started. So as you can see on the screen, we've got the reading passage 1. So you should spend around 20 minutes on questions 1 to 13, which are based on reading passage 1 below. Okay, pretty simple. So the passage is called the Moai Statues of Easter Island. Now, you don't have to skim the passage. You can just go straight down to the questions. Some people like to skim the passage beforehand, but it's really up to you. So here are the questions. Questions 1 to 8. Complete the notes below. Choose no more than 2 words from the passage for each answer. So that's really important. No more than 2 words. A lot of the time for reading tests, it will say choose 1 word only. But in this case, it says 2 words. So we need to keep that in mind. The next thing to think about, it says from the passage. So that means, let's pretend we think that this word here is the answer, consistent. Well, we simply take that from the passage and put it into the answer. Pretty simple. So let's go back down again and keep reading. Write your answers in boxes 1 to 8 on your answer sheet. Pretty simple. So here are the notes. The Moai Statues of Easter Island. Okay. Construction. Now, this is something that's important to think about when you're doing note completion questions. You should always have a look at the subheadings because they're gonna help you to know where to look to find the answers. Now, let's have a look at these questions. When you're doing this type of question, you should always try to predict the answers. So let's have a look. Number 1, tools created from. Well, things are created from something, created from plastic, created from wood. So this one here is probably going to be a material. So it's probably going to be a noun. Let's have a look at number 2 now. Something were used for the purpose of ... Well, if something is used, that means it is a noun, again, because we use something, use a phone, use a glass. Let's keep going on to number 3. Something were used, so same thing, it's probably a noun. They were dragged with, or after with, we will probably have a noun. Number 5, moved by. Well, again, after by, we would normally have a noun. So it looks like most of them are nouns so far. That the builders were. So after were, we could have a noun or we could have an adjective. So we'll put that in, noun or adjective. Many experts think the site was important for something reasons. Well, reason is a noun, so we probably need a word that's acting as an adjective to come before it. Moving on to number 8. It was put forward that something played a part. Well, again, it's probably going to be a noun. And if you don't know, a very simple thing you can do is just put in a word and see if it fits. So let's start with a verb. Let's say eat. That eat played a part. We'll know that wouldn't make sense. Let's put in an adjective. Let's put in the word hot. Hot played a part. We'll know that wouldn't fit either. Now, when it comes to predicting the answers, you don't have to do it like I've done it now. I've done all of them together. You can do them one by one when you're actually answering the questions. So let's go back up to number 1 and we'll get started. So tools created from were used to make the figures. So we're looking for what were these tools made from? Were they made from wood? Were they made from glass? Were they made from plastic? So let's go back up. And remember, we're looking in the construction phase and we're looking in phase 1. So let's go back up to the very top and see if we can find the answer. So let me just change this. Okay. So for centuries, 900 massive stone platforms across the island. So there's nothing there about the first phase and there's nothing there about tools. So let's keep going. Archaeologists believe the statues were created in several phases. Okay, great. with the earliest dating back more than 800 years. Okay, first, here we go. It looks like this could be where the first phase is going to be talked about or described. Early Polynesian settlers used tools. Okay, great. Likely fashioned out of. Fashioned out of means made out of. So it looks like this will be the answer. Animal bones. To carve the figures from volcanic rock found on the island. So it looks like animal bones is the answer because it's talking about those tools there. Those tools were made from animal bones. Now you might be thinking, well, why isn't volcanic rock the answer? Well, volcanic rock is talking about the figures. Okay, it's not talking about the tools. So let's go back down and we will put the answer in the space and see if it fits. Were created from animal, sorry, my writing's not very neat, animal bones. Probably created from animal bones were used to make the figures. Looks good, looks like the grammar's correct and it makes sense. So we can move on to question number 2 now. Something were used for the purpose of keeping tools and unfinished statues. So again, we're looking for a noun and we're thinking about what was used to keep these tools and unfinished statues. That's what we're looking for. So let's go back up and we'll see if we can find that. So we'll start from where we found the last answer, just here. To carve the figures from volcanic rock found on the island, shallow pits near some quarry sites and along transport routes may have been storage places. Okay, so it could be here, storage places for tools or for partially finished statues, according to some researchers. So we need to find out what were used as storage places. So we'll have to go back to the very start and it says shallow pits. Okay, shallow pits may have been storage places for tools. Now you might be thinking, well, what about quarry sites? What about transport routes? Well, that's telling you where these shallow pits were. Okay, they were near some quarry sites. They were along some transport routes. It's not saying they were actually used for the purpose of storing places for tools, storing tools or partially finished statues. So these ones here, quarry sites and transport routes, they are sort of distractors. They're trying to trick you because the correct answer is shallow pits. So let's go back down and we'll put that in. Shallow pits were likely used for the purpose of. Yes, that looks good. And also look here, look how it says were. If you see were, that means the noun needs to be a plural. So just be careful of that when you're checking your answer and when you're choosing your answer as well. All right, let's move on to number 3. So now we're looking at phase number 2, okay, the second phase. Ideas about how the statues were moved, okay? So something were used to move the sleds. Okay, so we need to focus on the sleds. What was used to move the sleds? So let's go back up. And remember, we're looking for phase number 2 as well. So that might help us find the answer. Centuries later, it appears that the inhabitants began positioning hundreds of raised platforms, many of which can be seen today, statues carved. This has led to, okay, how did an ancient community manage to move such massive figures? And remember, that's what we're looking for, move. So let's keep reading. According to one long-standing theory, okay, the islanders placed the statues onto sleds. There we go. So the answer is probably around here. And pulled them over logs, which acted as rollers. They are then thought to have tilted the figures. Okay, so what do you think the answer is? Is it logs or is it rollers? Well, the answer is logs. because it says the sleds were pulled over logs. It says the logs acted as rollers. It's saying what their purpose was. It's not, a roller is not what they used. They used logs. So we can go back down and we'll put the answer in and we'll just double check it fits. So logs were used to help move the sleds. Yes, that looks good. It fits grammatically. And again, we've got were, so we've got that S as well. So the grammar fits, or the grammar is correct. Let's move on to the next one now, which is they were dragged with. Okay, dragged with. What were these things dragged with? So let's go back up. And again, we're still in phase 2 or section 2. So let's start from here. They are then thought to have tilted the figures, okay, and used ropes to drag them forward. Okay, there's drag. Drag them forward in a slow shuffling motion. Alternatively, Okay, so we found drag. How were they dragged? What was used? Well, it says right before, it says ropes. Okay, ropes were used to drag them. So those two are connected. So it looks like ropes is the correct answer there. So let's go back down. They were dragged with ropes. So that looks correct. The grammar is correct and it makes sense. So let's keep moving on. Let's look at the next question now. Number 5, geologists, okay, say some statues may have been moved by something. So again, we're looking for a noun, but most experts aren't sure. So we're looking for geologists. We're looking for what geologists say about some statues being moved, and most experts aren't sure. So let's go back up. Now remember, we're still in phase number 2. Okay, we haven't gone to phase 3 just yet. So let's go back up and see if we can find anything about geologists. So let me put my thing on here. So some believe that statues were moved. Okay, more recent archaeological theories. Okay. So nothing about geologists. So let's keep reading. As early as the 1980s. There we go. Okay, geologists began offering alternative explanations for how the Moai were moved. Okay, so questioning the traditional image of coordinated workers dragging or rocking massive statues. Some scientists have proposed that natural processes may have played a role in transporting certain figures. Most archaeologists, however, remain doubtful, pointing out that such events like a landslide would unlikely result in ... So it talks about geologists here, and what do geologists say moved the statues? Well, it says right here, some scientists have proposed that natural processes played a role. And then it says most archaeologists remain doubtful. So if you're doubtful about something, you're not sure. And that's what it said at the end of the note. So let's go back down and we'll put the answer in, which was natural. I might just write this on 2 lines. Natural processes. Make sure you have the ES. So may have been moved by natural processes, but most experts. So it looks good, it fits nicely, and it makes sense. Now let's keep going. And we'll look at the next question. So phase 3. Okay, so we're going to go past phase 3. Builders. Okay, so builders is the next thing we're going to look at. An idea came about in the 19th century. Now, time is really important when it comes to note completion questions because it's going to help you to find where the answer is located. So let's keep reading. The builders were something. So again, we could be looking for a noun. We could be looking for an adjective. So let's have a look and we'll see if we can find anything about the builders. And remember, we need to go past phase 3. So let's have a look. The third phase. There we go. Third phase. So let's keep going. And if you get something like this, third phase, and you know that the answer's probably not here, you can read the paragraph really, really quickly. You don't need to spend a lot of time skimming because the answer's probably not there. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to read it really quickly. During this period, okay, shifted around 300, charcoal, da da da. So there's nothing about builders there, so we can confidently move on. But there we go. Who were the builders? So it looks like this is where the answer will be. In the 19th century, there's a keyword from our question. Early European explorers speculated that the statues were the work of priests, or were constructed by priests, possibly from South America, that vanished long before the island's discovery. This theory was popularized, So it looks like in the 19th century, some people thought the builders were priests. So let's go back down and we'll put the answer in and we'll see if it fits. That the builders were priests. Yes, it looks very good. It fits, the grammar's correct, and it makes sense. So let's move on to the next one. Now we're moving on to the purpose. Okay, not the builders anymore, the purpose. Many experts think the site was important for something reasons. So why was this site important? So let's go back up and we'll have a look and see if we can find it. So we'll start from here. This theory was popularized even today. Okay, so nothing about the purpose. So let's keep going. Many modern archaeologists now believe tools, the earliest phase, some researchers. So again, it looks like there's nothing here about the purpose, so we can read quite quickly. If the details surrounding creators are, there we go, purpose. Okay, so it might be here. The purpose is mysterious, okay? Most modern researchers agree that the figures, there we go, held religious importance. There is still no consensus or agreement on what other roles they may have played within the island's early society. So we found the purpose, and it looks like they were important for religious reasons. That's the only word that could really fit. So let's go back down and put the word in. It was important for religious reasons. Let's move on to number 8. In the 1970s. Okay, great. We've got a time, so it should be easy to find the answer. It was put forward that something played a part in how the site was arranged. So maybe how the site was structured or where the statues were put and why. So we need to find a reason as to why the layout or the arrangement was the way it was. And remember, we're looking for the 1970s. So that's going to help us to find the answer. So let's go back up and we'll start from where we found the last answer. They may have played, okay, in the 1970s. There we go. That was easy. 1970s. Anthropologist Catherine Routledge proposed that the layout, that was one of the synonyms that I thought of the Moai and their platforms, was connected to astronomy, with certain statues aligned to mark solstices or seasonal changes throughout the year. So, layout, astronomy, that is the answer. So let's come back and put it in. It was put forward that astronomy played a part in how the site was arranged or how it was laid out. Remember, the words in the question, so for example, we got arranged, are going to be, well, not always, but most of the time, they will be different from the words in the question. So you need to be thinking about paraphrasing or just thinking about the overall meaning of something. Because if you just try to look for one word, you're probably not going to be able to find it. You need to be thinking about the overall meaning. So these were the note completion questions. And I hope you can see that they were pretty simple if you just follow a very basic strategy. So now let's move on to the next set of questions, which are the true, false, and not given questions. All right, so let's have a look at these true, false, and not given questions. Questions 9 to 13. Do the following statements agree with the information given in reading passage 1? So this is really important. It says the information given in the passage. Okay, it's not about what we think. It's not about our opinion. Okay, it's all about the information in the passage. So just keep that in mind. In boxes 9 to 13, on your answer sheet, write true if the statement agrees with the information. Okay, write false if the statement contradicts or is different to the information. And then finally, not given if there's no information. So if we don't know. So let's have a look at these questions. Let's start with number 9. In the third stage of construction, a number of the statues were moved. Okay, so pretty simple. Nothing much to talk about. Third stage, construction. Some statues were moved. Is this true? Is this false? Or maybe we don't know because there's no information. So let's go back up. And remember, we're looking for the third stage of construction. And I remember seeing that, right here, guys, the third phase of construction. So let's have a look and see what we can find. Were some statues moved? Let's have a look. During this period, the statues became more uniform, okay, and more stylish features, okay, nothing about moving. Some were shifted, okay, to newly developed ceremonial spaces near the island's central regions. So this is pretty simple. It clearly says right there, third phase, some were shifted, okay, some were moved. And in the question, it said a number of, okay, it doesn't give a specific number. So for this one, we can definitely say this is true. They were, or some were moved. Moving on to the next one now, question number 10. There is no scientific evidence that work was still being carried out on the Moai structures in the 1600s. So a very important word to keep an eye on there is no. Okay, it's saying there's no scientific evidence that work was still being carried out in the 1600s. Now, a lot of the time when you get something like this, 1600s, 1500s, in the passage, you might see something like the 17th century or the 16th century. So we've got to watch out for paraphrasing here. So let's see if we can find that. Let's go back to where we found the last answer, which was just here. So let's keep reading. Oh, sorry, here it is. Near the island's central regions. Okay, around 300 still stand. Okay. Charcoal samples. Okay. So this could be something about evidence. Charcoal samples taken around the Moai platforms. Radiocarbon dated. That sounds like it's talking about evidence and science and proof, and show that work on the Moai structures extended well into the 17th century. So there is some scientific evidence, and it's saying that work extended or kept going into the 17th century. Now, just be careful. The 17th century is not the 1700s. No, the 17th century is the 1600s. So just be careful of that. So it's clearly saying that work was still happening in the 1600s. So we can go down and we can put, here we go. We can put false there. Okay, that's definitely not true because there was scientific evidence. What we saw in the passage is different to this question here. All right, let's move on to the next one. Question 11, Thor, I'm not sure how to say that name, has done studies on who built the Moai. So this person, Thor, has done studies on who built the Moai. So let's have a look if we can see if we can find that. Oh, just before we have a look, whenever you get a name, it's fantastic because you can't paraphrase a name. So it should be very easy to find, where the answer is located. So let's see if we can find Mr. Thor. Let's start here from where we finished before. Sorry, up here. Yeah. So who are the builders? Okay. Speculated, vanished, theory. There we go. Thor. There he is. So let's highlight Mr. Thor. So this theory was popularized by the explorer. Okay. He led excavations. Okay. He argued for something. Okay. Even today, some groups propose alternative. Okay. Radiocarbon dating again, confirmed. Okay, so it looks like there's no information. We don't know if he did any studies. So let's go back down and just double check. Has done studies. Yeah, it doesn't say he has done studies on who actually built the Moai. It said, yes, he's led excavations, but that doesn't mean he's done studies. So it's not given there. All right, so let's move on to the next question, number 12. Experts think that the Moai were completed by a number of different groups of people, and experts should be highlighted as well. So we are looking for experts. We're looking for the Moai being completed or finished or built by a number of different groups of people. So maybe a number of different countries or races or civilizations. So let's go back up and we'll see if we can find that. So let's start from where Mr. Thor was. Here he is. So even today, radiocarbon, the Maya were carved by the ancestors. Okay, so this is talking about one group of people who were involved long before European contact. Many experts or archaeologists believe that multiple groups contributed to the carving and placement of the Moai over different generations. Tools, burial items appear to support this view. So this one's pretty clear. It's talking about the experts. It's saying they believe multiple cultural groups contributed to the carving and the placement of the Moai. So this one's pretty simple. This one would definitely be true. So let me write that there. True. Now let's move on to question 13. People who disagree with Catherine Routledge's theory are mainly astronomers. So we're looking for people. We are looking for if they disagree with this lady's theory. And who are they? Are they astronomers or are they something else? Are they lawyers? Are they doctors? So let's see if we can find anything about that. And again, we've got a name. So remember, whenever we've got a name, that's fantastic because it's going to be very easy to locate where the answer is. So let's see if we can find that. Let's start up here. So the earliest phase, some researchers, okay, nothing about Catherine. Purpose, nothing about Catherine. There we go. In the 1970s, Catherine Routledge proposed. Okay, so this is her theory. This is what she thinks about this topic or this thing. There you go. Although her theory has attracted interest, some researchers argue that the island's early inhabitants may not have possessed or may not have had the knowledge to do this, or that the rugged landscape, more recently evidence, Okay, so remember, this is about people who disagree with Catherine's theory, and these are the people who disagree, okay, these researchers, but does it say who they are? No, we don't know who they are. We don't know if they're astronomers. We don't know if they're scientists, lawyers, doctors. We don't know. Yes, it does talk about astronomical knowledge, but does it say who the researchers were? No. So therefore, this the answer for this one will definitely be not given, okay, because we don't know. And remember, that's exactly what not given means. It means we don't know. So that was the first passage for test 2. Passage 2 will be linked here when it's ready, or alternatively, you can check out this reading playlist right here. Thanks for watching. I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you in the next lesson.